Okay, how do I put these down? Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be talking about all of the books that I read in June. There is something in my eye. Let's see, how many books did I read? I read 14 books in June, which is insane because I don't know if any of you guys knew this, but I was literally in a book slump literally since this year started. So for me to have read that many books and still want to read is like literally amazing. So let's talk about those books. Let me start with, I think there is, yeah, 2 books that I listened to on audiobook that I don't own, so I'm gonna hit those really quick. But the first one that I read is One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. I think this is the second book I read by this author, and I ended up giving this book 5 stars. I really loved this, and I loved the Italian setting. Like, I felt like I was in Italy, and it was amazing, and it was like the perfect summer book. Like, it was so good. Like, the atmosphere was like so summer, and like one of those summers where like you're just traveling a bunch and exploring, and like it was so good. It was so good. And I obviously loved the characters. Like, I loved everything about this book, and I literally do not have a single complaint. So if you haven't read it, you should definitely read it. It is just so cute. I don't know, it's like one of those like self-discovery kind of books too, which I'm starting to realize that I kind of enjoy those. Also, I'm really sorry that the lighting is going to change 50 times. The sun keeps going behind clouds and then not behind clouds. It's just changing its mind a lot. So, sorry. Okay, so the next book that I want to talk about is one that I count as read, but I actually DNF'd this book. Any books that I DNF, I do count them as reading them because I put effort in. So yes, but this book is Not My Type by Evie Mitchell, and this one I didn't rate. So if I DNF a book, I don't rate it because I feel like it's a little bit unfair since I didn't read all of it. It was just a little bit too sexual for me. Like, I know some people like really love smut and like they're all about it. I'm not that person, and I didn't know that it was gonna be that spicy. It was just one of those books on audio that was like super short, and I was on a road trip and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna knock out as many books as I can, and then quickly regretted it. But like, I didn't know it was gonna be like that, and it was like kinky, like, if I'm being quite honest, and I feel really awkward even talking about it. Like, I just did not, like, I felt uncomfortable listening to it, and that's one of the biggest reasons that I DNF'd it. Like, I don't know, it was just it was a little bit weird. So the next book that I read, it is a manga, and that is volume 1, A Sign of Affection. So this one is really cute, and I have the next 2 volumes in the series, but this is like a Japanese sign language rep book, and for anybody who doesn't know, I know ASL. My mom actually is an interpreter. Like, she was more often when I was younger, she was interpreting a lot, and so I like learned from her, and then I took classes as I got older, and so I really enjoy like the language, and I love the deaf community. So this was really cool, like, to see this, like, see that represented in a book. I don't really see that often, but also like Japanese sign language, which I thought was so cool. And this is like a romance between a girl who's deaf and like this boy who learns sign language just so he can talk to her, and like, I don't know, it's just really sweet, and I don't know, it was very wholesome, and it just gave all of the right feels. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars as well. I just had like a blast with this, and I literally cannot wait to like read the rest of them. I don't know, it was so cute. It was just so cute, you guys. The next book that I want to talk about is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Yeah, so I rated this 5 stars. I really loved this. I loved the concept of like each decision you make leads to a certain outcome of your life. So like, if I ate something different for breakfast this morning, like my life would be completely different. And it was so cool to like watch this girl go through all of these different lives that she could have had. Like, I love that kind of stuff, like alternate realities. Like, I don't know, it was just really fun, and I had like a blast reading this. And it was also great, like, it was a great perspective shift for me. I don't know, like, the decisions that you make matter, but also that like the decisions that you make lead you to where you are, and also the fact that like you can't change them. And it was like this acceptance, kind of. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it was really cute. And if you haven't read this, I would highly recommend. It's just, I don't know, it's like the perfect feel. It is the perfect feel. So you should get on this one if you haven't. So the next book, I also DNF'd this book, and I'm gonna tell you why. But that book is The Mistake by Elle Kennedy. yeah. So for this one, I really liked it up until like the last 100-ish pages, because again, it started to get like weirdly kinky to where I was like, we didn't have any of this in the first book, and then now we're getting it at the end of the second book, and then we even got like a snippet of like what's to come in the third book, and it was also really weird, and like, I don't know, I'm just not into that. I'm just not into that, you guys. Like, I want like sweet, wholesome, bubbly romances, and this was just kind of like, I didn't need to know that, is really how I felt. Like I didn't need to know, and I did not want to know. If it makes me uncomfortable, I'm not gonna read it, but no, absolutely not. Next up, I read Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire. So this was the secondary book club pick for the Coffee Break Book Club, which is my book club. And I gave this one, so I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I really did like the magical realism of this. The only thing that didn't give it 5 stars was that I really wanted more magical realism. Like, I wanted to be in all of the different worlds. And instead, I feel like we just got like little snippets of that, and I wanted it to be more magical than realism, if that makes sense. So it was not bad in any way. I am going to be continuing the series. I actually already have the second book in this series. But yeah, I just kind of wanted more. So that's why it didn't get a 5-star, but this one was actually way better than I thought it was going to be too, because I remember this floating around like BookTube and BookTok not that long ago. Oh, I'm getting a phone call. Hello? Hi. What? Anyway, sorry for that interruption. I don't remember what I was, I definitely didn't expect to even like it as much as I did, because I remember seeing it floating around like BookTube and Bookstagram and all of that like a while ago, and it didn't even like interest me at all. So the fact that like I liked it as much as I did was a shock to me. So next up, I read a little poetry book, and that was Watering the Soul by Courtney Peppernell. So this was actually really cute. Look at this creature. He's so cute. So I'm not gonna lie, I read this because of the creature on the front, but it was really good. And I don't know, like there were pieces of it that were like really relatable, and then obviously there were pieces that weren't relatable, but I ended up giving this 4 stars. It was really cute. Like, it was basically like this story of like growing a soul, almost like, you know, watering a soul, but like it had like little illustrations at like the beginning of each like section, and I just thought it was so cute, and it was the best little time. And obviously it's like a quick read, and it's like just very like fulfilling, honestly, to read. So I would recommend this one too if you haven't read it. I literally had never even heard of it. I just saw it in the store and I thought it was interesting, so I picked it up, and I'm glad that I did, because it was just, I loved it. I loved it. So I gave that one 4 stars, but super good. And then next up, I read The Cellar by Natasha Preston. So this was my second book by this author. I read The Lake last year on like my family mountain vacation, and this one is the same author, and I read it on that same vacation, which I think is going to become a new tradition to read this author on that vacation. But I did like this one too. I didn't end up loving it as much as I thought I was going to. The first 100 pages I was like really hooked, and then the next bit and the rest of it I was just kind of like, it just felt like it was really slow, and I felt like it was almost like talking in circles. Like, it was like, okay, yeah, I get it, I get it, I get it, I get it, she's kidnapped, like, we get it. Like, I don't know, there was something about it, and it just like was not as appealing as The Lake was for me. But I ended up giving this one 3 stars, and which is not a bad rating at all, but I feel like that's like the perfect rating for it, because it's not horrible, but it's also not great. So it's just kind of like in the middle. It does start like right away. So if you are looking for something that like will intrigue you like literally from page 4, it's this book. It is very intriguing, and obviously you want to know what happens, but I also got to a point where like I kind of knew what was gonna happen and then didn't care. Next up, super excited to talk about this book, but I read Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, and loved this, you guys. 5 stars, 10 out of 5 stars. Like, honestly, this was so good, like so good to the point that like I almost bawled my eyes out at the end, which I would have, but I was in the car with my husband, my brother, and my sister reading this, and I didn't want to just be like back there like weirdly just sobbing, so I stopped myself. But I totally could have cried at like how gooey and warm this made me feel on the inside. Like, so cute. It is like a childhood friendship and then second chance romance. So 2 of the things that I didn't think I would even like in a book, and absolutely loved. And the characters are just so freaking sweet, and the writing, like everything about this is just amazing. And if you haven't read this, what are you doing? It's so amazing, and I will never stop thinking about this book. I really want to reread it and just like tab this thing so badly because I just love this book so much. Okay, the next book that I read is The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. So here's the deal with this book. Okay, I rated this 2 stars, and here's why. This just was a little too young for me. Yeah, so just a little bit too young for me. I felt like the whole thing was just like really immature and cheesy, and I don't know, like I was not entertained at all. I did read this in like a day, but I didn't super love it, and I was really shocked because everybody has been loving this, everybody's been raving about it, and I really didn't think that like I would be one to not like it, but I was. And I didn't love it, and I'm not gonna read the rest of the series. Next up, I read the On Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. I didn't super love this one either. I gave this one 3 stars, okay? I just thought that this was a really cliche romance, and I don't love the cliche stuff. I just don't. I did love the Maui setting in this, so I did love the whole Hawaii thing. Obviously, Hawaii is near and dear to my heart. That's where I went on my honeymoon, so I just love it, okay? But I didn't love these characters. Like I wasn't like super attached to them, and I just didn't care for them, and then like their whole romance was just so like it was like one of those things like, ew, cuties. Like that's literally how I felt reading this. Didn't really love this one. I'm really sad that I didn't, because everybody loves this, but I didn't love it. And next I read The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. So this one I liked. I ended up giving it 4 stars, so like I did like it. But I definitely guessed the ending, which is so lame because it was such a good ending, but like I guessed it, which means it might not have been that good. I think I liked this one probably just as much as I liked The Maidens. It wasn't bad in any way. It was just the fact that like I guessed it, and whenever I guess it, it loses a star. I know, that's probably not a good way to rate things, but that's just how I do it. It's my personal rating, and that's how I like to do it. But I would recommend this to anyone who does like thrillers, because this one was really good, and it was definitely like a slower thriller, but I really enjoyed that part of it. We still have 2 more books to talk about. Next up, I read Milk and Honey by Arupi Kaur. I don't know how to say that, and I should Google how to say it, but I don't. Read this one. I gave this 3 stars on Goodreads because it is good poetry. She gets her point across. You understand the message, like you feel for her, all of that. I just didn't love it. For one, it wasn't relatable to me because it is about like a past trauma for her, and I couldn't relate to it because sadly like this is really tragic, and thankfully like nothing like that has ever happened to me. I don't know, it made it hard for me to relate, but like I also sympathized for her. So I ended up giving it 3 stars, which is not a bad rating at all. It was just the fact that like I couldn't relate, and that's like one of the biggest things for poetry for me, is that like I have to relate to it in order to like really love it, or else I feel like I'm just existing with the book instead of indulging in the book, if that makes sense. For that reason, it got 3 stars. Next up, lastly, I should say next and last, I read The Counselors by Jessica Goodman. I gave this one 2 stars. Okay, there's something about like YA thrillers that is just so not it for me, and I don't know. I think it's because it's so young and it's predictable, and like the characters are also just like very immature, and just like I don't know, I didn't love this. And I also thought that like the whole mystery itself wasn't even that good, and then when you found out who it was, you were like, who cares? Like I don't know, that's genuinely how I felt about it. I know some people really enjoyed this book, but I just didn't. Those are all of the books that I managed to read in June. I am seriously so appalled that I even read that many books. Like, how in the world did I even do that? But also really, really proud of myself because it's been a while since I have read like that. So I'm really, really satisfied with my reading month. I feel like I had a great mix of 5 stars and 4 stars and even like some DNFs. So like I felt like I had a good reading month, but I felt like I also had a great selection of genres too. Like I felt like I read a lot of different things, and I even got out of my comfort zone and read a little bit more poetry and some manga. So I felt really good as far as like genres go for the month too. I felt like I was pretty, I don't know the word, but I did good is basically what I want to say. Also, I'm not trying to brag on myself at all. I'm just really proud of myself considering I haven't read like this since last year. So it's just a really good feeling to look at the stack and be like, yeah, I did that. That's all that I have for today's video. If you are still here and you are not subscribed, you definitely should. If you enjoy my content, I have a lot of cool stuff coming in July, so make sure that you stick around for that. And that's all. I love you guys so much, and I appreciate all of you, each and every single one of you. Thank you for being here and being a part of my book journey. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next one.